Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans. Today is August 22nd, and this is the lesson about harmonics that I said last week I was going to push forward by 1 week, because last week what I wanted to focus entirely upon was DNA and the flying rainbow lasagna, and how your DNA are like a set of dancing, vibrating strings. Look at my dance movements. Dancing, vibrating strings that are constantly coiling, supercoiling, snipping, unzipping, enzymatically being snipped, enzymatically being tied back together, being knitted and being crocheted. That is an excellent precursor to being able to understand all of this about harmonics. So, good. Just checking what's going on in the chat. Thank you for letting me drink a bit of juice too. And I told you that I had to get equipment set up in order to be able to do the harmonics properly. So you can see, what is this thing over here? This is my oscilloscope program, and I've also got my instrument set up over here. So today is going to be a very dynamic recording. And what I'm probably going to do is not split it up into 2 separate hours. I'm just going to do one big, long chunk. And I know it'll be a long upload, but I think that it will be a bit more coherent, because it's all information that applies to both levels. So, okay, first of all, I know a lot of people are going to ask me what I'm working with here. So this is an app that's called Vocal Shapes. And this is an old tablet that is still running in old iOS, the old operating system. And the app is available. I have a link and I'm happy to share it, because I always want to give credit to the lovely creators that, are making things that I'm able to use like this. However, and you can download it, but you need something that has the old operating system. So, and it's a very good app. It's worked very nicely for me. Basically what it is an oscilloscope or a sound visualizer. And most sound visualizers have the waveforms traveling laterally across the screen like this. But this one, you can imagine that it's like a tunnel with waveforms going down the tunnel away from you. So we can start to see really interesting overlapping effects. And I hope that I can get this on the camera in a good way so that you can really see it. So I'm going to have that set up over here when we start to do a few more examples. I'm going to do examples using my regular piano. I'll move this forward so you can see it better. There you go. My regular piano here. You can almost see it spiraling away from you. And I won't talk so you can actually see what we're looking at here. Right? Here's 2 notes at once. Because we've got a lower C and a higher C. And what ends up happening when you see them both together is you are seeing nested proportional sound waves. So I'm going to describe it with my voice and then look for it again. You've got a bigger circle that represents the waveform of the lower note, and lower in frequency does not necessarily mean less good. This is one of these things that we're, going past in our human anthropomorphic understanding. Because when I would say like a low vibration thing, people always think low vibration, that's bad. That's not necessarily bad. Here's a low vibration note down here. Here's a low C. There's nothing bad about that note. It is a longer wavelength and a lower frequency, meaning it's going slower. So I've used this analogy too, the analogy of waves crashing on a beach, and I'll start showing you some pictures too. This is what harmonics is, and this goes back to, I think, either lesson 1 or lesson 2 of level 1, the analogy of waves crashing on a beach, wavelength and frequency. This is all relating to our life experience too, because we are made out of vibrating DNA strings. So that's what the second hour of this presentation is going to be, relating these concepts of harmonics to your time body and to your physical embodiment in like the integument of your DNA tying together your ephemeral or invisible or non-visible aspect of self to your visible, embodied, corporeal self that's made out of matter and that is moving through time. So, okay, hold on a minute. I have lots of good pictures and diagrams today for us all. So I use this little analogy too. When I first started painting, and I can show you some of these early paintings, and I'll show you some right there. I was in one of the first art shows that I was ever in, and a person came up to me and they said, "Hey, you're painting harmonics." And I nodded thoughtfully and I said, yes, that's exactly what I'm doing. And the truth is I didn't know what the word harmonics meant. And I actually wrote the word down in a little notebook. And then I went home and I started to look into what it was. And because all of the things that I've been painting and drawing and making sculptures of, I perceive it all through direct perception, through the telescope of my mind, of my inner eye. So yeah, I didn't know that there was a word for what I was seeing until I started to paint it and share what I painted and saw publicly. And then someone told me that's harmonics. So it took me a little while to understand and to be able to describe this. So basically harmonics means nested waves. And let me get a few little, I have them right over here. I'm sorry, I'm ducking kind of off camera while I talk to you. These are some of my templates. I use these. Well, let me stand up while I talk. Can you see me okay? That's not good. I'll sit down. I told you it's going to be a very dynamic show today, everyone, so that I can get all of my props. So I use these when I do my drawings, and they're see-through, but you can still see what I'm talking about here. So this is a 12-inch circle, right? And let's say that is analogous to this note, C, and the color red. And I'll show you all of my little diagrams about this. It's a particular size, and this is half of the size of this 12-inch circle. It's a 6-inch circle. So that means I can fit two, boom, boom, 6-inch circles inside of the 12-inch circle with no extra hanging out the side. So what that means is, I don't know if you can see, here it's fitting together perfectly. I'm put it in front of my face so you can see. It's fitting together perfectly where my hand is touching it. There's no extra hanging off the edge. Now I'll show you the example of extra hanging off the edge. Like if it were situated like this. That would be a wave, either an auditory wave or a visual wave that did not nest perfectly within this other wave. It's hanging off the edge. So it's kind of like if you're sleeping on your bed, but you don't have all four limbs actually on your bed, you've got like a foot draped over one side, or an arm is draped off of the edge, like it's not fitting on there perfectly. And so let's talk about the definition of music. We as humans, or earth-dwelling humans, we have defined music as sound waves that are organized and that have these nested proportions, because we can actually hear with our ears if they don't fit together, it doesn't sound pretty. So now let's do some examples on the piano of just chords. Let's do chords that sound pretty and chords that sound ugly. Here's just a basic chord that sounds pretty. And here's something that sounds ugly. And it's a subtle difference. I know it might, and I'm not sure how well my microphone is picking all of this up, but the first one, that's just a very simple major chord. And then the second one, I'm just kind of randomly, pressing all keys at once. Let's do it again. Okay, how come this doesn't sound like music to us? Because what we're getting when we do that is a bunch of sound waves that don't nest together perfectly. So all of my paintings, and I'm wearing some of my paintings, but we'll get into the actual paintings, I'll share some of them. They are all about making these visual waves nest together perfectly. So let me move this little thing for the moment. We'll get back to it. It turns off automatically if I'm not using it at all. Yes, I'll show you what non-harmonic notes look like. Absolutely. So first we'll go to share screen, everyone. Share screen, and we'll go to, so this is one of the earliest paintings that I did where I started to show what these organized sound waves look like. Here, wait, let me just get everything set up over here so that you can see properly. There we go, I think that's a little bit better. You can see my face, a bigger picture of my face. And let's get annotation. And I'm going to use white so it's like a color that you can actually see. So in this painting is just a simplification, because when I start to get into these levels of paintings, whatever, a decade later, it's because exploring the initial chords got boring to me. So I wanted to always say, well, what happens if I then add on more notes and more notes and more notes? So all of these paintings that I do are expressions of harmonics. So this was one of the earliest ones that I did, and where I'm now making this white highlighted, kind of very rough sketch, that is the red wavelength, the red note in this exploration. And I'll show you on the piano. I have arbitrarily assigned red to C, Here's a C. Here's a C. Like, you know, we can look at the notes on the piano as a rainbow. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. And then the next one would be a C, but it's also white light, C, white light. So that was how I taught myself the piano. I know I'm jumping around a lot in this presentation, but that wasn't, when I painted this painting, that was over a decade ago. And then, you know, I started to teach myself the piano many years later. And the way that I did it was by associating it with the colors on the colors of the rainbow that I was already familiar with, and associating with the notes on the piano with colors of the rainbow. And I actually even used this little sketch that I will show you to be able to show you exactly how I did like this visualization. Let me keep on this, and I tell you, I jump around a lot. This painting is very accurate. It's a 24-inch painting. So the area that I'm highlighting in this white line over here, from over here over to this side over here, that area is 12 inches. So this is actually not my usual calibration. But you can imagine also, I'm telling you this because the red circle extends outward, we're only showing half of the circle in the painting. I can't fit the whole thing on the actual canvas. But the orange, and these are notes of the cosmos, notes of the symphony of life. These are the notes of the chakras or time vortices of your body. Red is always the biggest. Red represents the physical realm. And in light waves, just in the pure physics realm of light waves, these are light waves. Here, let me change the color actually for red color. These are light waves moving along. Red is the biggest light wave. It's the biggest. It's got, if this is the length of the wavelength, right? It's the biggest of all the wavelengths that are known as the Roy G. Biv color spectrum of visible light. And that is why we have things like stop signs and stoplights and other things that you want to see really well. All of those things are painted red. Red travels the furthest because it has the longest wavelength. So also many, many foods are red, like red berries, you know, cherries, other things that are delicious and tasty and meant to be enticing. Because if you can see it from far away, you're like, wait, I see that berry all the way over there across the field. I'm going to walk over there and I'm going to get it and I'm going to eat it. And then I'm going to poop out its seed and the plant will continue to be alive. That's why a lot of foods are red. And that's also why very few foods are blue, because blue, and we'll go through the whole frequency range here. Blue is a much shorter wavelength. I don't know if you can see that blue properly. But the blue is more like this, and blue disperses or scatters very easily. And that's actually why the sky is blue, because blue, the frequency is scattering out of the white light. That is the recipe of light. That's, you know, the culmination of everything. The white light, I've used this example before, is the cake, the end result. And red is like the flower. And blue and violet, those are like the dash of vanilla extract that you have there. And they are in the perceiving the sky and seeing it as blue in the middle of the day. That's because it has to do with the way that the blue light waves are coming from the sun and going through Earth's atmosphere, and they are scattering. They're going hither, thither, and yon. They're going everywhere. So we see them as opposed to the other colors that travel in a way that is not dispersed and that actually make it all the way to the ground. They aren't shuffled around and made to change the way they're going by the atmosphere. However, at sunrise and sunset, I said mostly in the middle of the day, the sky looks blue, right? At sunrise and sunset, what's going on is lateral waves, because we've got the red waves are going through Earth's atmosphere at a very lateral, like this is the sun over here, right? And the waves, the sun is not up here directly overhead pointing downward. The sun is lateral, it's at an angle. And P.S., this is another reason why flat Earth doesn't make sense. Don't get started in my comment section about flat Earth. Okay, it's a lateral journey or trajectory or vector of the light waves that is going through much, much more atmosphere. So it's, instead of going through like whatever, 3 units of atmosphere, it has to go through 30 units of atmosphere, because it's not going directly down. It's going through the side, through all of these many, many layers of atmosphere. So it disperses more than it does in the middle of the day. These are the basics of light physics, and this is all science talk. Eric is like, flat earth for life. What? You know, we can get into it on this. I'll just say, to each their own. Enjoy your journey. Don't fill my comment section with flat earth stuff. Okay, so now let's go through this painting, because this painting represents not only the accuracy of light waves, but also the accuracy of your non-physical body or your time body or your energy body, because you are made of light. That's why this class is called Full Spectrum Humans. These are your lessons, and you are full spectrum humans. You're made of light. So this is like an anatomy lesson, and this is also relating to what we did at the very beginning of the semester in understanding wavelength and frequency and the nested proportions of color. So orange is always going to be 1/2. I don't have to write these all out because the fractions are hard for me to write with this little pen. 1/2 the size of red. So this orange arc over here in this painting is 6 inches. And this yellow arc over here is always going to be 1/3 the size of red. And the green rather is always going to be 1/4 the size of red. So what's 12 divided by 4, everyone? That is 3. So in all of my paintings, the green diameter of the green circle is a 3-inch circle. And that's what I can pick up my template. Where's my template? Where's my 3-inch circle? Here's my 3-inch circle, everyone. That's why I bought it, because I use it all the time. If I want to make something green, that's a green circle, I make it 3 inches. And then this turquoise or light blue is always going to be 1/5. And this dark blue, indigo, is always going to be 1/6. And violet, the highest frequency, smallest wavelength. This, let's get a violet color. Here. This line over here that I'm drawing in violet is 1/7 the size of this line that I'm drawing over here in red. And in my paintings, that's calibrated to 1.68, or I rounded up to 1.7. So, all right, these are the basics of harmonics. And the important thing that you can see here, like if we want to say, let me rewind. If I've got one big red circle, I can fit perfectly inside of it 2 orange circles. Look, there's nothing hanging off the edge, nothing hanging off the edge, nothing hanging off the edge. And I know that I can also subdivide that, and I can perfectly fit inside of there 4 yellow circles. They would go there, and then another one here, and then another one here. I know this is a very rough sketch, but you're understanding that this is the whole idea of music. I talk about this all the time, that we are musicians in a symphony of life, and that's the whole idea of becoming a genetic virtuoso. That this is the antithesis of music. I'm now going to mash my keyboard. You're like, Aurora, that is not music. That sounds terrible, because those are not organized sound waves. We have some sound waves there that do not nest perfectly. They are randomly arranged as opposed to intentionally and perfectly arranged. So harmonics in both light waves and sound waves means perfectly arranged, nested circles or nested half circles. Now let me take this thing away. Now let me move this aside. Hold on, I'll move this aside. So boom. This is a picture I use all the time. This shows, again, nested proportional frequency waves, energy waves that are part of your energy or time body, that are what connect us to the time field. You're made of music. This is the musical score. We are talking about the musical score and what harmonics is. Okay, now let's talk about, well, wait, first we'll use this. Gotta move it. My squinty scrolly faces. Move this over here. Okay, make sure that everybody can see everything. Okay, so this is not a diagram that I created, but it's a nice, lovely, accurate diagram. Let's go to there's gotta be a way to annotate. No, it doesn't, the annotation doesn't always come back, but I think I can do it through this over here. I'm squinting, I'm scrolling. I think I can do something. No, 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 that's not what I wanted. Wait. Nope. I keep on trying to like draw on it, but I can't. That's okay. Here, I don't know what I need to do to make that undo. 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 Yeah, here, I want to draw in like a color. give me a color to draw in? No, it's still not letting me do it. Okay, stop fiddling around. Like I'm telling you, oh, now the annotation is working. Ah, thank you. Okay, guys, so what we have here is these represent vibrating strings. Each one of these that I'm highlighting in blue represents a vibrating string. Okay, in many instruments, what is making the noise is a vibrating string. So what I have down here, I'll show you what I have down here. This is a little electric keyboard. This is not a giant grand piano, although in one day in my life, I would love to have a grand piano, but they're very big and they're very heavy to move around. You have to get them tuned properly. This electric piano has programmed in sounds that come from a big grand piano. And a grand piano has all of the many strings that when you press a key, what's happening is a little hammer is striking a string. And when it strikes that string, what we get is a waveform. I'll draw it down here, I hope you can see it properly. Strike the string and it begins to vibrate the atmosphere and it makes a waveform that travels through the atmosphere that then reaches the little tiny sensitive hairs inside of your ears that cause you to vibrate. And you can feel it vibrating on your skin, you can feel it vibrating in your diaphragm, you can feel it on the soles of your feet. Like there are many other portions of our anatomy, of our physical corporeal anatomy that also feel vibrations when we are exposed to them. I'm gonna drink a lot. I don't know if you can tell, it's very hot and sunny in here, and I have lights on and all sorts of electrical equipment too. It's making me very warm in here. We're going to talk about notes and we're going to talk about harmonics now. Every place where I'm highlighting in blue, all of these little nodes, these are little crossing points because, you know, I just drew those waveforms down there. These are the crossing points where like the peaks and the troughs interact and intersect. So the first thing about this diagram is you can recognize it's arranged exactly the same way that I told you how I arrange my paintings. This would be, let's get the colors right. This would be the red note over here, the, longest wavelength. And when we divide red in half, what we end up getting is orange. Here's one down and one up, and that makes orange. And we've split red into two parts, right? Orange is 1/2. I don't know if you can see that there, circling 1/2. Yellow is 1/3 the wavelength of red. So we can do an up, I don't know if you can see that, a down and an up, and fit that all into the same amount of space. Here's 1/3 that I'm highlighting in yellow. And then back to green. Green, the wonderful unconditional love color, is 1/4. Look, I'm circling that in green. And so we can do an up, a down, and an up, and a down. In order to fit it within that same, we can get 4 circles in the same length that we get into one red circle. And now let's go to a light blue. And the light blue is 1/5. That's what I'm circling over there. So look, up, down, up, down, up. And now let's go into dark blue, which is 1/6. I'm circling that right there. I'm just really reaffirming this for everyone. Up, down, up, down, up, down. That's 6, half circles that we can fit across there. And then of course, violet is 1/7. This is not really a very violet-y color, but we'll just circle it over there. Then we can go up, down, and then up. And these are how light waves are organized and nested proportionally. This is how the chakras or energy centers on your body that are not physical, you cannot take a picture of them with a physical camera, how they are arranged on your body. And these are also how we begin to understand overtones when one note is struck. Hold on a second. So when you make one note, the primary note in music is sometimes described as the fundamental. It's like the basic foundation, the thing that you made first. And if I go to like a black color or something that's a neutral color, or maybe gray, you'll see that better. So let's say we strike the first note and it's a C. And it's that I've hit the string, I made a note, I made a sound, it's a C, that's the fundamental primary note. But within that vibrating string, there are then sub-notes or sub-vibrations. that are they are nested proportionally along these harmonic patterns, and those are called overtones. So when we're listening to, like, what the difference between listening to grand piano or just listening to a very dry, digitally produced C tone is that grand piano is a real physical instrument that string is making real physical vibrations that have more complexity than merely the fundamental note. You hear the C, but then you also hear all of these other notes inside of it that gives it like I said, I again said complexity, but it's like greater multi-dimensional feeling. It doesn't sound flat, it doesn't sound boring, it doesn't sound unidimensional. It feels and sounds multi-dimensional. So that is what an overtone is. So all sorts of different instruments create overtones, and I'll teach you on my instrument over here. And the human voice also creates wonderful overtones. So back when I was in Woodstock, so I've always been doing overtones. Since I came here as Aurora, I have been playing with my voice and doing overtones. And hold on a minute. You know, at a certain point, I found other people that were also singing in the same way. If you've ever heard Tibetan throat singing, it is very similar. So what you do to create an overtone sound with your voice and with your mouth is you're making one note with the vibrating strings of your larynx, and then you're using your mouth and tongue and palate to shape that note so that you also hear the other notes that are the overtones in it. And so in this class, I hope that you'll be able to hear it because it's hard. Like microphones do condensing, and then the Zoom program itself is very difficult for me to share music, to do a teaching like this, because it has this amplification thing where it amplifies the loudest sound. So that's because the Zoom doesn't want you to hear like my air conditioner running in the background. That's actually good. It wants to make my voice the thing that's the loudest in this presentation. But when I play my instrument, you hear clang, the first note, that is the fundamental note, but then there will be all of these other complex harmonics that are going on that the microphone will dampen down. So I do have a Soundcloud of this being played so that you can get the full feeling of what it's like, and just to get that across to you. But here, when you trying to get organized my words. Here's what you will hear when you hear an overtone. You will hear either a wah 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 sound, wah wah wah, or you will hear a sound that might sound like a very high whistling, do 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 do, and that all that do 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 is going on while you still have that main primary fundamental note that's going on. So I'll do a little bit of overtone singing for you, and I will also set up the oscilloscope so that you can see what it looks like, that you can begin to understand visually what overtones are. Because I think, I don't know if I played it for you. So wait, I'll hold it up for you. I'll move things off my keyboard. Here's a C. And you can even see it spiraling into the background. My voice ruins the picture. And here's a higher C. So pretty much just like looks like a circle spiraling away from you. And now here's both low C and high C together. So you can tell on this apparatus when you're singing an overtone because you have a bigger circle and a smaller circle, and they'll be connected by a little curly cue. So now I'm going to do some overtone singing. Wait, you know something? Let me go back to my full voice, full face for this. Full face. So I'm singing that main fundamental note that sounds like, but then inside of there, you will hear do 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 do, and you'll even see it just when I'm singing casually like this. Here, watch me sing. Do 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 do. Every place where you see that circle deforming into little curly cues, those are overtones. I'll do it again. So again, it might be a little bit hard to hear it, but that's what's going on. Let me go back to more of my pictures because I want to tell you all about how I started to learn, teach myself the piano. Go back to my desktop. Okay. So this picture over here. I've got this one that I want to show you. And wait, I know I've got one more over here. Thank you for bearing with me. Hold on a second. Oh, here's a very nice picture. This is, again, not my own, but I think it, and I'm just moving my face over here. So wait, first I show you this one that says overtones. So I did not draw this picture over here at the left, but it does show very clearly. You can start to see how this looks a lot like some of my paintings. So I was painting these because when I first came into this body, my visual sense was the strongest sense and my auditory came secondarily. So I was understanding harmonics and this arrangement of the cosmos visually, and then started to understand it as an auditory expression afterwards, after many years. So here, again, this is a good, you see this central part. Let's get a thing so I can gesture. First of all, get a thing and annotate. The only thing I don't know is like, what do I have to press to get the annotation to come up? I don't know. Something. There. Nope. That's chromatin from last week. Okay. Well, bear with me, guys. But where I'm putting my cursor, and in the middle, right here, in the middle of this painting over here, that looks just like the paintings that I was just showing you. Where's that painting? I know it doesn't look exactly like that one, but I'll show you one that it does look exactly like. I have to, oh, I don't, yeah, bubba dooba dooba doo, bubba dooba dooba doo. I don't know if I can find it very quickly. Okay, well, never mind. We will find it another time. Let me look for this other one that I have of the keyboard. Just hiding, I have all of these different windows open. Let's see if I can find it. Nope, it's from last week. This is also from last week. We can definitely see that. Get everything minimized. Yeah, that one's last week. Minimize. I have a picture of the keyboard. Here, we'll go there. We'll get it. This one right here. There we go. Okay. You already did this painting. We'll minimize that. These two are what I want to show you. Good. I hope you can see them properly. So in order to, I didn't understand, when I first started playing music, I just played by ear. I was like, oh, I hear that note, and then I can play that note on my piano, and I kind of like could figure out songs pretty well. But I did not understand when someone said, like, play the note C, I wasn't able to relate that to my visual understanding of the keyboard until I started to understand the keyboard like a rainbow. So this is just what worked for me. This is not necessarily, you know, a standard way of teaching music, even though now I've seen some wonderful apps and other programs that are mostly meant for young people. They have little stickers that are all the colors of the rainbow that you can stick on each key of your keyboard. And then you can understand when you're reading notes on a staff, oh, if it's red, I need to press a red note. If it's green, I need to press a green note. So I mean, I think it's a wonderful way of teaching. It worked for me because I had to find ways to go around the neurologically disrupted areas of my brain. So color was very strong in my perception. So I used color to build a neurological bridge to understanding sound and the piano. So what I actually did, this little thing that I'm running my cursor over right now, I actually drew this and printed it out and had it kind of like on the music stand of my keyboard. I didn't actually put the dots on every key, but I think that would have helped so that I could start to see and understand and relate the colors to positions of my fingers on the keyboard. Hold on a second. So as you're looking at this over here, you now understand I just arbitrarily assigned the note C to be red. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, and then technically we go back up to red because it just keeps going endlessly through the piano. But in our being, when we add up all of the ingredients that make cake, it turns into cake. It's the white light. It is you as unity consciousness. So this one that's over here on the other side of the screen, I did not create this diagram, and you can see the nested, proportional sound waves that are inside of it. And this one also begins with C at red. So I'm trying to say there are some of these other children's learning apps that actually might start with, you know, whatever, F or G as red. And to me, that doesn't make sense. So I'm like, because we begin, I don't know why they did this on the piano. Why did we start with C instead of A? Because it would make more sense to be A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. That would make more sense. But instead it goes C, D, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. I don't know why they did that. I'm just dealing with what is here, that established whatevers of what is here. My whole point of bringing this up is that when I started to learn the piano keyboard, and this was already like more than 10 years ago at this point when I got my piano, I started to relate each note to a color and to be able to understand songs as being the expression of colors, of different combinations of colors. So, okay, now that's good. I'm going to minimize these two things. And now I want to show you this other thing over here that is, so this is a screenshot. Let me get this away. This is from last week's supercoiling lesson. So this is a screenshot from that wonderful Vocal Shapes app. And the instrument that I'm playing in this screenshot is a Tibetan bowl that my friend loaned to me. So I don't have it anymore. But it's the type of instrument where you can either strike it with a mallet or you can run like a kind of suede roller around the edge. And so if you've ever played this, when you run the suede roller around the edge, it starts off slow and very not that loud, and then it gets louder and louder, and you'll hear a lot of you'll hear all the overtones start to begin. But I took this image when I simply struck the outside of the instrument with a mallet and then let it make its tones. So you can see it makes all of these perfect, I'm not even coming up with the right words. The symmetry, I guess the geometry of it, it is perfect. And the funny thing about this, my friend had loaned me all of her Tibetan bowls. Some of them were very shiny and very perfect looking, and they just made very boring pictures. They just looked like one circle. They were making one note. They didn't have all of these subtleties and complexities. And this one was a relatively humble looking instrument that was kind of tarnished, hand hammered, and you would, by looking at it with your eye, you wouldn't think that it's so special and so perfectly tuned. And when I told my friend about this and showed her the picture, she's like, oh, that bowl is special. It was made by like an artisan family that lives in the Himalayas. They've been doing this for generations, and they combine something like 7 different types of metal into one metal alloy, and they have a whole process of infusing it with prayerful energy while they're making it. And I'm telling you this in order to understand like that there was really something to that. There are materials, their manufacture process, and the way that they created a really beautiful instrument that is, I would say, beautiful and harmonically tuned, as opposed to there are many instruments that are created in a more manufactured, like a laboratory setting, that might make a perfect pitch. It might be like, there's a C or whatever, there's a B, but it doesn't necessarily have all these beautiful complexities to it. So I wanted to show you that. Okay, I'll put that on down. The get rid of euchromatin is from last week, and now this that's for level 2. We'll go to the solar system on level 2. So okay, hold on a second. Let me drink a little bit more water. I know, oh, so thirsty. And we'll get into more. Okay, let's also talk about amplification in music, because when you are, and you'll hear this, so harmonics and overtones are also part of a phenomenon of amplification, and I got to draw it out for you. When you have organized sound waves, it's just like having organized light waves. When we have organized light waves, here, okay, get a bit of color. Organized light waves means that we have a laser beam. Like here's one light wave, and then we have, I get a different color. All of the peaks and all of the troughs line up together. The light waves are all traveling in the same plane. And what that means is that this is coherent light. It's like a laser beam, and it continues onward indefinitely. It is coherent. When I use that word, it means like it sticks together. I'll make a little joke. That's what good waffles do. They stick together. These good waffle-like light waves stick together, and that they are coherent. And our journey of trying to become, you know, a long-lived full-spectrum human in this non-dimensional, higher dimensional time realm or whatever, we need coherence. That is what we are here developing while we are in this material format. We are organizing ourselves. And I hold up my little yellow sculpture. I got to duck off camera to get my little sculpture. I'm not that prepared today. When we get coherent, when we organize all of our energy centers or chakras, when we organize all of the light that we have accreted in terms of thought energy and also food energy and emotional energy, when we get all of our peaks and all of our troughs organized together, we become like a laser light, a coherent object, something that has staying power. That's what I mean when I say coherence. So sound waves have similar phenomenon in that this is talk about amplification. If I have sound wave 1 is like this here, and I'll draw this as like the central midpoint, and then sound wave 2 is like this. We're matching up all of the peaks and troughs. So an up plus an up and a down plus a down. What we get as the end result is a way up. So this up plus up equals way up, and down plus down equals way down, and that's called amplification. So what did not change in this diagram is wavelength. Here where I'm making this scribbly blue line, that is wavelength. How long is that wave? Literally, how long is that wave? That part didn't change. When we added 2 waves together, the wavelength did not change. What changed was the amplitude. How high is your wave? That wave got twice as high because I added together 2 waves. So if the first wave was a 5, and then the next wave was also a 5, we ended up with the end result wave being a 10. That's called amplification. And that happens when you organize sound waves, just like when you organize light to be coherent, you get laser light that travels onward because it has its own inner organization. Sound waves do the same thing. When you organize sound waves effectively, they get louder and they also travel further. So all the time, now I'll go back to my face. Stop share. There we go. All the time I'm talking in this class and saying that we are like musicians in a symphony and that we are sending out music, and the symphony is a symphony of life, and our DNA is what is both emitting the music and being affected by other musicians. When we organize the music of our body to be making nice, pretty music, and when we are together as a band, our music is stronger. We are amplified. So my nested proportional harmonic DNA music that I'm sending out, plus your music, plus your music, plus your music, the band, the symphony of life, all adds up together. And we amplify each other's presence. That is the whole point of what I'm trying to say here. So let me talk a little bit about level 2 should be this, but it's just a good segue. Interdimensional ethics. Okay, this goes back to what I was talking about with sympathetic vibration. This also has to do with harmonics. So if I'm holding up my hand as the strings of a guitar, and if I string of a guitar, I would have an extra string over here because I've got 5 fingers, but the guitar has 6 strings, okay? But let's just pretend there's an extra string there. And let's say I pluck this string, and that's how I have stimulated it, and now that string is vibrating over here, but I didn't touch these other strings at all. What happens is this string vibrates the atmosphere, and that's like wind. When you vibrate the atmosphere, it's actually energy traveling through the air. And that energy affects the other strings that are not even directly touched with my finger. And they do what is called sympathetic vibration, that they are being non-physically stimulated by the music that they're being exposed to. And this is how we can understand my experience here being embedded in this realm and affecting other people with my own particular unique genetic dance, and how I'm being affected by other people. So I'm saying it's a big takeaway from the lesson. Thank you if you've made it 45 minutes into this lesson and you finally made it to the big takeaway. Your DNA is like a vibrating string of music, and you are both emanating your own song, you're emanating your music, you're sending out your music every day to the world, and you're also being affected by the music of the world. So some of it is your own music reflecting back, and some of it is other musicians playing their own instruments of their bodies that is sending out their stuff to you. And no offense to anyone that has cancer, and I'm not saying that cancer is somehow like you're going to catch cancer by being around people that have it, but if you're sending out like the music of health and vitality, and you're like surrounded by 25 people that all have cancer, and they're sending that back to you, like that is not necessarily the optimum, that's not the optimum way to achieve health, because like we're literally affecting other people with their energy field and being affected by people with their energy field. Again, I'm not saying to shun or spurn people that have cancer, but I'm trying to say like we're marinating in our environment. So this also relates to all the technological stuff that is affecting us on a cellular level and on a DNA level and on a thought level. So this is the ethics, ethics of being here. You have a body with DNA in it that is made of vibrating strings. What music are you allowed to play? Because what you're playing is affecting everyone else, and what everyone else is playing is affecting you. And so these are the ethics of being here. So we're all allowed to have a body, and we are all allowed to play what we want to play with our body. And having a body, that's like passing in the audition. And that's why those pesky occupiers of the interstices, they're not in the band. They don't have an instrument. They don't have a body. They are disembodied. And that's why they don't, first of all, they don't get to participate in the music making. They don't get to criticize the music making. And I've spoken about that too. Like, you don't get to say anything about my body or about my functioning of my body or about what I eat or anything like that. Like, you don't have a body. You don't get to have an opinion. So yeah, and those beings, and we'll get into the solar system and harmonics, they smashed their guitars on stage. They destroyed their bodies through horrible, or wonderful experiments gone awry, like technological, they tried to do things technologically. Attempts, that's the word I was looking for. Technological attempts gone horribly awry, and they lost their bodies. And now they're hanging around in the interdimensional meniscus, the membrane between worlds, and taking pot shots, being the peanut gallery, being like, nah, nanny poo poo. Just like, you know, you guys, you don't even have guitars anymore. You don't get to talk to us. But unlike me, I actually have a guitar. I vibrated the strings of this body into a new song so that I could be here as Aurora, and I'm sending out my music. And my music goes, flying rainbow lasagna, flying rainbow lasagna, flying rainbow lasagna, and I'm allowed to be here doing this. The whole point is when you don't play the right notes, you don't get to be alive. That's how you die. You hit the membrane of death because you're not, quote unquote, playing the right notes in the symphony of life. So I played the right notes in this body to be able to keep this body alive. And you cannot argue with that. Like, most of what I'm teaching here is that this is an embodied first-person experience. It's not merely an intellectual exercise. So real magic, it's not like sitting on an interdimensional cloud and saying, I wave my magic wand and poof, now something happens, or, you know, writing something down as an intellectual, as a white paper, or doing something as calculations. Like, theoretically, it's like this. That's not what it's like. Get a body and you actually make your music. So to get a body, mostly people need to be conceived, and that means you have to have the gestating fetus conform to these special musical patterns, because if you don't conform to the patterns of life, you die, you don't get to be born. So these are kind of like fail-safe mechanisms that were programmed in, we're not just a computer simulation, but I use the words loosely, programmed in by a wonderful, super benevolent, compassionate, and quite adept composer, the great composer that wrote all this music and is also conducting us, just like Mozart was both the composer and the conductor at some of his performances, and is telling us when to play and how to play. It's a symphony of life. And so all of those things were written so that it's like, hey, if you play horrible music like this, you don't get to be alive. And that is what a lot of those beings did, was they intentionally harmed and changed their frequency and their arrangement so that they were not emitting music that conforms with, or that is amenable to the music that's called the symphony of life. So, okay, and we'll get into more of that in level 2 also. Well, hold on a second. Okay, so anyway, now, okay, the ethics of vibration. We're talking about vibration. All the stuff that I teach you guys is a language of vibration. All the things about the colors, and now about the notes on the scale. This is all a language of vibration, because when we meet higher dimensional beings, we're not all going to sit around and chat with each other using the English language and the flapping of our moving mouth parts. No, we will interact with each other using this language of vibration. I'm drinking more. So you're affecting people with your music that you send out, and you're also being affected by other people that are sending out their music. And it is not meant to be a battle. This is not like battle of the bands where it's like, who's louder, you know, like some kind of heavy metal championship. No, it's not like that at all, because I've also said here in this realm, we have to respect all sorts of different organisms or levels of being, some of whom are very delicate. Here, I'll play a delicate little note over here. We have to respect even notes that are like this. Can you even hear that note? It's the highest note on my piano. There are some organisms that are like that. They're like very delicate. They're not super barbarians. They're not like, you know, fighting for survival with, you know, toothy claws and things like that. That needs to be respected in the symphony of life as being as important as things that are very, very strong and forthright and very loud and very aggressive. So it's the real genius of the composer and the conductor and even the participants in the symphony is giving an opportunity for expression to all of these different organisms that are supposed to be in the time field. That's my little asterisk. Not giving free rein to every organism or every consciousness, because no, it's not all supposed to be in the time field. If your music is like this, you are not supposed to be in the band. But if your music is like this, then you are supposed to be in the band. And even if you're a very delicate structure, or if your social structure, or if your emotions are very delicate, and you're not aggressive, if you're playing the right music, you belong in the band. So you're allowed to, you as an individual, I don't own you in any way. However, I remind you that you have permission to be in your body, to be here. You passed the audition, you have a body. You're allowed to sing and make music with your body. And you are doing this knowing that you're affecting the rest of the time field around you. Your neighbors can hear your music. So try to sing good music. Try to have good health in your body. Try to have loving expressions that you send out. And when I say love, I'm talking about an actual tone, not a mere airy, fairy, hippie, ideal, fantasy, fairy tale type of thing, but an actual, real meat and potatoes tone. But it's not something that's a tone that we hear with our physical ears. It is a tone that we hear internally. Okay, so yes, DNA is affected by other beings vibrating DNA. So here's my basic ethics again, and I'll go over this because sometimes people are like, oh, you're an invader. I'm like, I'm not an invader, although I'm new to the band, or I didn't, you know, grow my own body in a womb. I'm sending out a new melody. And it's not something that I'm forcing other people to participate with. And it's just like if you're in a choir and your voice is very strong and the note that you're singing is very clear, you're going to affect the other singers in the choir. And that's the way it's supposed to be. So this is not barbarian values. Barbarian values say, only the strong shall survive, and to the victor go the spoils, right? That's kind of like, you know, like if you're a weak wuss, then I'm going to be stronger than you, and then I will play my music and you will shut up and go away. That's not what it's supposed to be like. It's supposed to be like everybody has a chance to play and everybody's music is being played. However, if you have a very strong voice or if you have a very loud instrument, you recognize you're affecting a lot. And also your music is strong because it is well constructed. What I was showing you about amplifying music and coherent sound waves traveling further than non-coherent sound waves, we're talking about your song is stronger and your music is louder because you are well organized. So when your thought structure and your belief system and your emotions and your physical vitality and your connection to the divine, when you are well organized in the music that you are emitting into the world, you have a very strong voice, you have a strong presence, and your music emanates outward and is affecting others and is actually amplified because it is so coherent, because it's the way it's supposed to be. And people that don't have coherent, well-formed music, it's supposed to not be very loud. Like imagine, you know, some guy that's just playing like a non-amplified guitar in the corner, while meanwhile there's all of these, you know, really loud tubas and, you know, the loudest musics in the band are over here, and those are the good players, right? However, what we have in this time and place is not a perfect system, and that's part of why I'm here to rectify it with Flying Rainbow Lasagna. We have some of the very worst musicians in the band amplified. It's not supposed to be that way. They're not supposed to be like the worst guitar players, but they have like a giant amp and all of their horrible music that they're playing is like blasting out everyone else in the symphony because they've just got amplification. That's not what's supposed to be going on. So this is how we can understand the use of dark magic, or what I define as satanic technology, and artificial augmentation of mind waves, of DNA expressions. That there are beings who are some of the occupiers of the interstices that use this, and also some of their colleagues in the flesh that also use this too. They either take a magic pill, inject some kind of crapola into themselves, grow a neural lace, wear a magical headband, a magical amplification tool, whatever it is. They're using some form of augmentation to make their music louder than it should be. If your music is crap, it should not be louder. And also it should not be played all the time. Like if you write a crap song, it shouldn't be very loud, and it also should not be on the radio all the time. So I'm also using this as a very direct example because we have some of the worst musicians in this time and place are elevated to a stage artificially, and then we hear through pay to play payola, which has been going on like since the 1950s. Like, oh, you wanted this? I want you to play my song for me on your radio. It's like, I'll play your song on the radio. Just give me some money. And so then it's basically the people that have the most money to spend in order to buy their way onto the airwaves, or the people that we are hearing the most. And this is why I don't listen to the radio, because those are not the best musicians at all. So with drinking water. So, you know, of course, what do I and many other people do? Luckily that there are now services like Soundcloud, or, you know, if you know what you're looking for on iTunes, like there's alternatives to the radio so that you can actually find the real musicians that are actually making real music that is connected. It's coming from their own divine connection and is not merely a commodity to sell in the marketplace. So we're talking about a value system, and that value system is also reflected in terms of mental energy, that some people are really sending out an incredibly valuable, wonderful quality of mental energy. And then there are beings that are sending out horrible mental energy that sounds like this. And those beings are being artificially augmented, turning it up to 11 so that we hear all of their horrible, crappy music. And I keep on trying to tell everyone, like, they are farting up the joint. This, like, what stinks in here? Like, oh, those guys, they're playing. This is why this realm that we're in right now is not already an Edenic utopia, heaven on earth. Because we got them stinking up the joint. Like, their music is crap. And I'm talking about their genetic music. I gotta drink more water. So yeah, I'm not just like endlessly, ceaselessly justifying my position here and my existence here and saying like, I'm allowed to be here, everything is fine. This is also an understanding of why it might be so difficult for you to play effectively your own music, and for you to hear effectively what is going on, like, you know, to hear your own music as you're emitting it, because there's all of this amplified crap that is going on, and the crap is mental crap, and it's also DNA programming of reality. So okay, now we got to get into harmonic Schumann resonance. I'm pointing to my piano, and standard tuning. Yeah, drink a bit more water. Thank you for understanding. Okay. So the Schumann resonance, and why 432? And then we'll get into my little instrument, because I told you before, my instrument is tuned to 432. Why 432? Okay, so this all goes back to, we're little tiny fractal elements, fractal fragments of the beautiful planet that we live on. Our bodies are part of the planet, okay? Planet Earth has her own frequency, has her own song that she sings. Just like if we say we have a bell, and I strike that bell with a mallet, it rings, it makes a tone, it makes a noise. So we're on a big giant music making instrument that is making a noise. And the way that Earth makes her tone, makes her emanation, is we've got the surface of the planet, like here's where we grow our food crops and where the soil is. And then we have the stratosphere up here where I'm wiggling these fingers. And there's a gap between those two, like the surface of Earth and the outer stratosphere. And what happens is lightning strikes Earth, And the more that lightning strikes earth, it's like the more that you're ringing a bell. And what it does is, I'll draw it out for you. It creates these sound, well, let's say vibratory waves that go and bounce between Earth's surface and the stratosphere. Clear everything out. Wait. Make some room. Clear everything out. Clear. Okay, perfect. Here's the planet. Planet Earth is blue, and there's nothing I can do. And here's the stratosphere. And whenever we have lightning strikes, we'll make them green so you can see them. Lightning strikes, it's like striking the bell or the ringing tone of Earth. And what starts to happen is we have wavelengths that bounce back and forth between the surface of Earth and the high atmosphere. And that's exactly like what I've been drawing for you, either visual sound waves or visual waves or auditory waves. All of the same lessons apply. So this is called the Schumann resonance. So let's write it out, everyone, and change to a better color so you can see. Boom. Okay, and Schumann resonance changes. It varies dependent upon how many lightning strikes there are in Africa. You know, it depends on the weather. So there are different charts that you can follow. But for a long time, Earth's Schumann resonance has been at about 7.83, right? And we can round that up because it fluctuates, is the word that I was looking for. We can round that up to 8. And the Schumann resonance affects the biological functioning of our neurology, because we have, draw it over here, we've got a brain that has 2 hemispheres. There's one half of your brain, and here's the other half of your brain. This is very roughly drawn. But your brain has 2 basic structures in it that are then connected in the center by your, I think it's called corpus callosum. There's like a nerve fiber bundle in there. And the 2 hemispheres, they talk to each other. Boom, 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 boom. They send signals back and forth between these 2 areas. And the frequency at which they send things back and forth is exactly like a waveform. Look at that. So just like I was telling you, what's harmonics? Harmonics is perfectly nested sound waves here, or any kind of wave. Here's a bigger wave, and then here's 2 smaller waves, both of which fit inside of the initial wave perfectly, okay? What if I draw one of these waves like this? That's gonna fit like this. Hey, everybody in this class, you're all super geniuses. Is that harmonic? Is that harmonically perfect? The answer is no. No, Aurora, that is not harmonically perfect. And we would define that as ugly music that does not sound good. And let's say that we have in our brain, if we are being exposed to certain frequency ranges, to certain waves, either auditory or visual or high energy, like microwaves. If they're like the red ones that are not matching up well with the waves that are Earth's natural frequency that run at about 8 hertz. Hertz is the measurement of waves, and Hz is the 8 hertz. Then we have ugly music being played in our brain. And this is, becomes evidenced in not well-formed thought structures, not well-formed feeling structures, and also harm to our cellular vitality. So in every way, it brings down our health to be exposed to all sorts of different waves that are not harmonically well tuned to our natural frequency of 8 hertz, all right? So something that is well tuned to the frequency of 8 hertz, that would be something, anything that is a multiple or divisor of 8. Like 8 plus 8, that equals 16. Anything that's 16 would be good. Anything that's 32 would be good. Anything that's 24 would be good. Anything that's a multiple or a divisor of 8, because we can fit that number perfectly into the initial sound wave. We can divide it up into happy little packets of 8. Now let's talk about the tuning of 432 is special because, I'm just rewinding a little bit here. There we go. 432 is special because we can divide it happily with 8. Okay, just checking, looking at the chat. How about, well, what we've got right now is music that has been tuned to 440. And that's the A note being tuned to 440. There we go, 440. Here's an A note. there's an A on my regular piano. My piano just is a regular piano. It doesn't have special tuning or knobs that I can twist or anything like that. It is what it is. And this is standard symphonic tuning. So this is since World War II. Everybody on planet Earth got together and they decided we are going to make this note conform to this number over here, this number of wavelets, you know, per second or whatever. And 440 is not a happy little multiple or divisor of 8. We end up getting extra hanging out the side instead of nesting together perfectly. So when we listen to music that is tuned to 440, it is not harmonically well integrated with our natural body structure. But when we listen to music that is tuned to 432, then it is music that integrates well with our natural harmonically tuned body structure. So all of this means that when you listen to music that's tuned to 432, which is not that much of a difference. Like if I played this note at 432, you wouldn't be like, wow, it's unrecognizable. It's a very, very slight difference, but it has a huge impact on our bodies, on your capacity to think clearly. Because once again, we're talking about, here, I'll go back to my face. Back to my face. Okay, what we're talking about is integrating your two halves of your brain, lefty and righty. And we want them to talk to each other in multiples or divisors of 8. And if we have music going that is tuned to 440 hertz, then it means that what we're hearing in our ears and processing with our mind and our neurology is not harmoniously well integrated with the natural movement or the natural neurological behavior of our brain. And so it starts to create dissonance. Dissonance is a perfect word, like notes that don't sound good together. These are dissonant notes. That sounds terrible. That doesn't sound like music. I'll ask a question, class. Does this sound like any song that you know? Be like, no, Aurora. You know, maybe some kind of experimental avant-garde composition. But no, that does not sound like actual music, because there's some dissonant, whatever experimental stuff that I've heard that sounds exactly like that. But we're talking about like melodic music. So what we are understanding is that frequency, all sorts of different frequencies, in a certain range, we're able to hear it with our ears. In another range, we're able to see it with our eyes. In another range, we're not able to hear it or see it with our eyes, but it is still affecting our biology. And that would be the sense of like microwave radiation. Like you don't want to microwave your brain. That would be very bad for you. It's clearly affecting you. All of these vibrations, if they're at the right frequency, they integrate with our body harmoniously. If they're not at the right frequency, it causes a dissonance, a disharmony, something that doesn't feel good, something that takes away from vitality and instead causes friction and loss of energy, which is entropy, and disease. So yeah, intentionally, since World War II, the symphonic world on Earth got together and said, this note is going to be 440 hertz. We're standardizing it, even though that's technically not what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be 432. And there were a couple of operas. There was one that was written by Verdi back in the 1800s, and he tuned his A's to 432 because he found that the singers, these operatic singers, could reach the high notes more easily when the music was tuned to 432. Because think about it, you're making sounds with your vocal cords, and vocal cords, when you're using them, they end up making these perfect, you have two semicircles, you have chords that make semicircles that form together to make a circle. So it's easier for vocal cords to make circles that are the sizes of 432 hertz than to make circles that are the sizes of 440 hertz. And so yeah, when you have your music that is properly tuned, it can literally create a transcendent experience. And I mean, more power to, you know, human creativity. Even listening to music that is, you know, the standard tuning can still create a transcendent experience. Like whatever, you can listen to Led Zeppelin or, you know, the Beach Boys or whatever. All of that rock music is tuned to 440. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't have a transcendent experience listening to it. It just means like it's more difficult to do so. Now let's get into what my instrument is like over here. So let me move things around a little bit. And I don't think I see any questions over there in the chat. Bear with me. Let me move things around a little bit. I told you we would be getting going on today's lesson. And my instrument over here, I have to move my microphone. Whoops. Try not to move my computer. Hold on a second, guys. Okay. Yeah. I wanted to tilt this, but not have it fall horribly. And let me get this thing on camera over here so you can see what this looks like when we have it kind of close to you. Okay, drink more water. Oh, and I don't know if you can see. Oh, wait, here's a question. Ben Leonard says, I think Bob Marley and the Wailers tuned to 432, so I've heard, would like to confirm. That's a really interesting question. I don't know about that, but I do know, here, I'm going to aside for a second. There are different apps. Can you hear me okay? Here you go. There are different apps that you can get for a tablet or whatever that can take basically any music that's recorded that you want to run it through that app, and it automatically retunes it to 432. So, and there are also, just to make a point, there are several different YouTube channels or, you know, compilation channels where people have already done the hard work. They've already put it through the transforming software program, and so you can listen to whatever, all Mozart tuned to 432, Bach, you know, Beethoven, all of the classics, and even some things like whatever, you know, Jimi Hendrix and everything like that. So, but let's also talk about other tuning. 432 is one tuning, but it's not the only one. There's also 528. There's all of these other, but the key is if it is a happy multiple or divisor of 8, which is the Schumann resonance or close to it, and which is the frequency that our brain is, let's say, entrained to. So this instrument over here, and I'll hold it up just for a sec so that you can see what I got, because I know you can't really see it properly. So it's a little heavy, but you got an idea. It's made of these different tubes. And I have my microphone over here. Let me just also make sure. Can you guys hear me okay with my microphone over here? And I'm gonna drink more water. Good, okay, thank you so much. So each one of these tubes is a note, just like each one of the keys on my piano is a note. We're doing fun stuff. Okay, so there's a C. Get this thing going. The only thing with this, it turns off if you do not use it for a few moments. So we'll get it going, but then I'll have to come back and touch it again. Just starting with that. Okay, so here's a C. And now play one over here. Play the high C over here. So that C looks like one circle. And also, when you see it on here, when you hear it, I strike it, and then you hear it go, C. But then when you see it on here, you see a circle that gets bigger and smaller. And when I sang my C, I have overtones in my voice. C. See? There's curly cues. It's not just one note. There's a note, and then there are sub-notes or subtleties within that note. And the subtleties are shown as the curly cues. Okay? Now I'll play, here on the piano, here's low C and a high C. Okay, now I'll play low C and high C on here. We're gonna play them at the same time though. Wait. Hold on a second. Let me do it more properly. So first of all, you saw some interesting things there. You saw it going, when you hear this going, you saw that little movement in there, and you also could see how it was a low C and a high C was like two perfectly nested circles. Okay, that is because in the octave, let's stay right here so you can see my face. How do octaves work, everyone? Octaves work because you have sound waves that are going, across like this. And if you have a C that is 12 inches, and then the next C 1 octave away is going to be 6 inches. So this wavelength is twice as big as this wavelength. Got it? This circle is half as big as this circle. Let me show you with my little circle diagrams over here. This is totally here. A 12-inch circle, a 12-inch circle, a 12-inch circle, and here's a 6-inch circle, a 6-inch circle, and this would be like a lower C and a higher C. Now let's say, so here, lower C. Higher C. You could see it really well in that picture. You could see the smaller circle nested within the bigger circle. Okay, so on this instrument, I'll play each note all the way on up. It goes C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. We'll play it all the way on up, and you'll see what it looks like. This is what I'm talking about. Kind of first it goes dim, and then you have to brighten it up again. Okay, ready? Now, I don't know if the microphone that I'm using over here is picking this up really very effectively, but after I play all the initial notes and you hear the initial clang, 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 there are these wonderful subtleties that happen as the sound waves are organizing themselves. They're bouncing back and forth off of the different, I didn't tell you about that. Oh, I moved this so you can see it better. In this instrument, you have each one of my fingers as an individual tube. When I strike a tube, it vibrates the atmosphere next to it, just like the guitar string, and that affects the vibrating of all of the other tubes on the instrument. So this guy over here, when I strike low C, that is making all the other guys vibrate. Even though I didn't touch the other guys, it's making them all vibrate because it's vibrating the air next to them. So here, interesting things happen when I do this. You'll hear almost like a purring sound between these two. So you hear a purring sound, and then you also hear. We'll do it again. Do it again so you can hear what I'm talking about. And I hope that this microphone is picking it up. Someone tell me in the chat what the experience is like for you guys as the listener, because I don't know how well the microphone is picking up. But let me give you that example again. Let me try this one over here too. Yeah, Ben is saying it's hard to reproduce the sound with microphones. So I'm not sure how much you're hearing of what I'm actually hearing with my ear here, because there's all of these subtleties that happen. So there's the initial note, the fundamental, that's like, you know, the initial explosion, and then there are reverberations that continue onward, and all of those subtle reverberations, they organize themselves. They are all affecting one another. So this is also very similar. I'll stand back here because my microphone's over here. This is very similar to the experiment if you have many, many metronomes on a table, like on a surface. The metronomes, you know, they click back and forth, keeping time. And if they're not synchronized, and you have many, many of them in an arrangement on a table, what eventually happens is the ones that are going super fast give energy to the ones that are going slower. And at a certain point, they're all moving at the same rate and they're all synchronized. That is what is happening on an instrument like this. When I strike all of these notes, the ones that are, oh, boss just showed up, come on over. The ones that are moving at a faster rate, come on up, boss, oh, are slowed down a little bit, and the ones that are going slower are made to move a little bit faster. Hello, Cheeky. And Cheeky is right on time. Look at that, guys. She almost always wakes up after an hour's nap I'm surprised because I was making a lot of noise before that she didn't wake up earlier. Hey, sweetie, how we doing? Everybody's happy to see you on the internet, Cheeky. You're great. You're great. All right. All right. So this also has to do with, and making sure you can hear me with my microphone over here. Your DNA. Your DNA. What is the frequency of your DNA? How fast are you vibrating on a subcellular level? That you are here interacting with all of these other life forms. And some of them are human, and some of them might be canine, some of them might be a blue whale or a microbe or a redwood tree. And your music that you are sending out, that you're emanating, absolutely is affecting the amplitude and the frequency of the other people, the other beings that are here, and you're being affected by everything else too. So, I talk a little bit about the antediluvian world, the sophisticated world before what is known as the fall of consciousness, the fall from grace, or the fall of Atlantis, like into the ocean, like an old song from Donovan. But what I'm really talking about is our expression of our DNA, our dance of our DNA changed. And since we had that change in our expression, like we've been having to retune the guitar. That's what this is all about. We are all trying to retune our guitar to get back to that level of being a virtuoso, where we don't have to have disease and we don't have to have decrepitude, and we definitely don't have to die. And we are all affecting one another on this journey, and we're also being affected by other people. So this is also really an understanding that we're in a sea of vibration. Big takeaway. Thank you. The next big takeaway, if you've made it through the video this far, thank you for watching. And the takeaway is we are all submerged in a sea of vibration, and we are emitters and also receivers. And the DNA is one of our apparatuses for both sending and receiving, because it's also happening, on a non-physical level, not merely on the level of your physical cell structures. And what we're affecting all of the other organisms around us and being affected by all of the other organisms around us. Just getting a bit more water over here. Okay. Okay. This instrument over here, because I'm talking about how music can affect us, and I feel like I should move. Let me see if I can scooch closer with Cheeky on my lap. Scooch closer. Oh, we're scooching. We're scooching. Okay. I know. There we go. I'm going to move this aside for a moment. There we go. Yes. Okay. Well, we've had genetic invaders to this planet and to our levels of consciousness. And those are like not good musicians in the band that are stinking up the joint, and they're playing horrible music. And the music that they're playing is the music of disease and death, and also rape. Because this is a big one. Really the understanding that we're so interconnected on like those metronomes all sharing energy, or musicians in a symphony playing together. We're so interconnected that you can't just be like, oh, that's that guy and he's not a good musician over there and it doesn't matter, I'm just playing my good music over here. We're all being affected by one another, and that also includes whatever technological expressions, like cell phones, whatever is being emitted. We're not just surrounded by music. It's not just like, oh, rock and roll music is bringing down your health and vitality. It's not that. We're surrounded by Wi-Fi and cell phones, and even, I should reshare that video with everyone. It's a wonderful one that is about elements and the sounds that elements would make if you translated like a chemical or atomic element into a musical format and then played it all together like music. I'll reshare that. I'll remind myself to reshare it. Yeah, it was very well done, very watchable, with the person who was giving us a little chemistry lesson. And part of the chemistry lesson had to do with the frequencies that fit together well of various different types of atoms. It could be like a carbon and an oxygen and what they sound like together. And then the musician created the auditory expression of different chemicals like glyphosate and DDT. When you listen to those and their expression as a music form, It sounds horrible. It sounds like, it sounds very dissonant or atonal. It does not sound like a beautiful melody. It does not sound like it fits with the symphony. So when I'm saying we're submerged in a sea of vibration, I'm talking not only about things that literally are emitting vibrations, lights and Wi-Fi and your microwave or whatever, and sound and your TV, and your electrical wiring in your house and your smart meters. But I'm also talking about chemicals. Chemicals themselves, the substances, are emitting a particular type of vibration that is affecting us. So when I talk about the antediluvian world and how we didn't have to eat physical matter in order to be alive back then, and that this is like the, you know, retransformation that we are experiencing, part of what made it possible was eating sunlight directly. And also part of it was to be surrounded by different elements of the environment that feed you with a good vibration, with a benevolent and nourishing energetic emission, as opposed to what we presently live within. We presently live within an environment that is pretty much designed to take away our life force energy, our natural vitality, and to create aging and decrepitude and death. It is very, very challenging to be here and keep your energy field like firewalls, have barriers and encryption so that all of that bad music, it's like farting up the joint, doesn't get into you, and so that you keep on playing your good music, that is the music of health and vitality and continued life and, you know, wonderful, fun existence. So yes, it's a huge challenge to be able to do that. That's not what life was like in Atlantis. In Atlantis, not only did we have beautiful crystals, okay, crystals can get charged up with vibrations and can emit them to you so that you can be absorb them like a type of food. And not only that, but like if you make a beautiful garden, like I have a beautiful garden out in my backyard, and it's full of medical cannabis, and I love to sit in my garden because my plants emit a wonderful music that's not with my ears, but a music, a vibration that feels wonderful to be around. And I also create all of these paintings that I have. You can see some of them in the background behind me. And that's a visual expression of these perfect harmonic proportions. So I look at things that feed my eyes with good, well-arranged vibration patterns. And I submerge my body into gardens and other places, environments that help to feed my body. Hey, if you've ever been to a beautiful forest or a wonderful garden or, you know, peaceful place in nature, those places, it feels good to go there for a real reason. You know, trees and other organisms are all emitting these wonderful vibrations. And yeah, it's completely something that has been destroyed or taken away from most humans who live in an urban environment. And urban environments are the antithesis of creating an environment that feeds you well with vibration. So much like Sasquatch, I have a very limited shelf life in urban environments. You know, I'm not that far geographically from the city of LA, but I avoid it like the plague, because as soon as I go there, I'm like, this place feels terrible. It feels terrible to me to be surrounded by that level of vibration. And what feels good to me is to be surrounded by like a beautiful dog who loves me, in a studio that's full of beautiful, well-calibrated paintings, or in a garden, or walking on a nature path, or surrounded by trees. Like, these are all the things that are like being surrounded by other good musicians that can actually, you know, that know how to play and that are playing good music. Here, let me move myself a little bit closer over here so that I can see the chat. Hold on a minute, Cheeky. I got to scooch closer. She's like, what's going on? Don't worry, I'm just scooching. Oh. And move my thing so I can see better. I know this is a very strange setup today. We're trying to be comfortable with Cheeky on my lap. Let's see what we got. What are people talking about here? Oh, this is interesting. Salou says you can see music and you can hear light. Yes, synesthesia. This is what we're talking about here. So it's really a language of vibration, and that can be expressed either visually or auditorily, and also through time. So we're going to get into other aspects of vibration in, you know, as I go along in this presentation that are about time. Ben says it's hard to reproduce the sound with the microphones. Yes, I'm not sure if the sound is coming through exactly right. Cheeky. Cheeky, you have a fan. Ben says you've been looking very beautiful in your pictures. Yeah, we've been doing little photo shoots. So she's a complete camera ham now. Whenever I take it out, she's like, she's like, I'm ready for my close-up. Like she gets herself in front of the camera. So I think it's really wonderful. Eric says, random note, which is interesting. Disney has let me see this, what you're saying. Disney has a resort in the Bahamas that's named Atlantis. That's a head scratcher. I don't even know how to understand or go into that, because I definitely yellow caution flags on Disney, and they're literally MKing or mind controlling everyone through their various social propaganda, I guess is a good way of saying it. So yeah, I'm not exactly sure about that, but okay. Now let's talk about, wait, let me drink a little bit more water. And I know I moved my microphone back over here. I hope you can hear me again. So I have recordings of this instrument on SoundCloud. Good. Thank you very much for giving me the feedback on the sound. I'll include the SoundCloud link so that you guys can hear it, so that you can hear what it actually sounds like without the compression that comes from going through this video conference software. And so when I first got that instrument, it was like around Christmas time, and it was many years ago. It was kind of the end of the day, and I got it in the mail, and I set it up, and I was so excited, and I played and played and played, and then I went to go to sleep and lay down in my bed, and I was like so jazzed up, I couldn't even close my eyes and go to sleep. Like it literally was a type of food that invigorated me, that gave me wonderful energy, even to the point where I was like, okay, this is like drinking a cup of coffee. I should not do this right before I go to bed at night. So yeah, I've been using it for many years at this point. And I found that exposing myself to these notes, I mean, I do it all the time. I'll take it out into my garden. I'll do it there. I bring it to, there's this little amphitheater that is in the public square in town, and I'll just bring it there and I'll do it. It is a way of sending out benevolent frequencies into the world, because we have all of these truly malevolent, not disorganized, non-benevolent frequencies that we're being exposed to. Rock and roll music is the least of it. There's so much that's out there that it's like, it's really wonderful to be able to show that, to give this out. And I did a little sound bath at a local yoga studio with some other people that also have gongs and some other resonant instruments. So yeah, so okay, let's talk about sound bath. What is sound bath? This is like, if you go into a room and you don't have to actually do anything, you're an audience member, not necessarily a musician, and you can sit or lie down quietly in meditation, and there's all these different resonant instruments, gongs, Tibetan bowls, and things like this, or crystal bowls that are played, and the music transforms your cellular structure. So just like we can see, there are images of what happens to your blood after you are exposed to the microwave emissions of a smart meter. And what happens, it not only malforms the ordinarily perfectly circular or toroidal shape of a red blood cell, but it kind of makes them clump together into these unusual formats. But after being exposed to a sound, that's smart meter bad for your blood cells and makes them look all hinky-chinky. But instruments like this, I saw a picture that was a blood draw from a person, and it was like they had something like sickle cell anemia. It was something that was a malformation of their red blood cells before a sound bath, and then after a sound bath, they had another blood draw, looked at it under a microscope, and all of a sudden, the red blood cells had transformed into perfect circles. I'm not making Illuminati symbolism here. Perfect circles. So this is the whole point. When we listen to music, I usually listen to music on my headphones. Now I live on my own, but I used to have housemates or roommates or whatever. They want to drive everyone crazy with my everything, so I would listen with my headphones. So usually we, in a regular human society, we listen to music on the headphones, and we're just stimulating, inside of our ears. And it's beautiful, and I have high quality headphones. It's not the same as when you listen to music that is played, in the atmosphere around you, where you're literally moving the air. You are vibrating the air as a vibratory medium, and the parts of your body that are vibrating are not just, inside of your ear, little tiny vibrating bones. Every place where you've got a cell membrane, it vibrates. Your teeth vibrate, your diaphragm vibrates, your skin vibrates. So exposing your body to these well-tuned vibrations is absolutely, it's like feeding your body in a different way. So I had a couple of friends when I was up in Northern California come and use that instrument in my studio, and they reported relief or improvement of some neurological problems they were having, which also were worse when they were around smart meters. It's kind of interesting. So that was just, these are anecdotes. This is not, I'm not a scientist. This is not a scientific white paper. This is just to give you the idea that it's like planting the seed. you know, living next to smart meters and Wi-Fi, yes, I said fry, and all of those types of non-benevolent vibrations are absolutely negatively affecting our health and vitality. And instruments like this can absolutely uplift us. And I do understand that in the ancient world, so this is the antediluvian world, you know, and the destruction that happened then, but then also places like ancient Egypt, sound and frequency or resonance was absolutely used as a tool for healing. And this is something that is only just beginning to be understood in this time and place. So because your DNA is constantly vibrating and constantly emitting music and also receiving music from other people. Okay, so wait, Eric has a question here. He says, what is your thought on binaural beats and these YouTube frequency videos? I would say proceed with caution, because it's just like if somebody gives you a plate of food or like a pill, whatever they're giving to you, you don't know, pardon me, what is actually in it. So binaural beats, the idea is very, very solid. Just like the idea of food is good. Food is good. We eat food, it nourishes us. So the idea of binaural beats is that you have two ears and that you listen on headphones, and that the beats that are going into one ear are slightly different and tuned to a slightly different you know, harmonic rhythm than the ones that are going into the other ear. And that you doing this, you can help to entrain the two hemispheres of your brain to either have a different mental state or emit a particular brainwave, or to focus and have concentration for studying. Like there's all different ways to use binaural beats. And I know that there's even a whole like a CD, I don't know if it's still available. There was at the time of CDs or like MP3s, a whole thing for how to get out of your body, like using binaural beats, that you can use those frequencies in order to transform your mental state. So the idea behind that is very solid. The issue in watching anything on YouTube is that we have to recognize we're in the world of 1984 and Big Brother. And just like everything has been calibrated and manufactured to be harmful to you and poisonous and toxic and bring down your vibration and disrupt your frequency and disrupt your connection to natural goodness, or, you know, natural intelligence or whatever. You got to watch out for stuff that's on YouTube, because YouTube it's a rigged system. First of all, the most popular videos are often they're artificially enhanced, like they buy their way to the top, or they are promoted by YouTube for some reason. And YouTube is owned by and run by Google, and Google is totally Big Brother. So at this point, you have to be super skeptical of anything that you watch on YouTube, because you have to understand that there might be a reason why that particular video is presented to you and why you're listening to it. Because binaural beats is like eating food. It's like, okay, I'm going to ingest something. I'm going to make myself vulnerable by ingesting this thing. And then you have to make certain that you haven't ingested something that is not what you really want. So, and I'm not, again, a proponent of flat earth theory, and I won't watch videos that people send to me, because I literally think that there are subliminal suggestions and binaural beats for entrainment that are programmed into some soundtracks. And so, you know, sometimes when I watch videos on YouTube, I keep the sound muted, because I don't want to be exposed to it. So yes, so we have to be concerned about that. But the idea of binaural beats is very like effective. And also, let's also talk about this. Most ancient and indigenous cultures had, as part of their ceremonies, the use of, we'll call it like sonic technology or vibratory language, either chanting or overtone singing or using music. That these can be ways to transport yourself. These can be transportive and transformational experiences. So it's very powerful. And I know that people, when they go to a rock and roll show, they can have a transcendent experience while they're listening to the Rolling Stones or whatever it is. But it can be like that. It can be like a religious experience or a spiritual experience to be exposed to the right vibrations. It literally changes you on a biological level, like the cells can be shaped differently. Biochemical level, the way that your neurons are functioning and the chemistry that makes neurons, you know, have a signal that travels. On an intellectual and perception level, like we can change what you're thinking, seeing, and feeling by exposing you to different vibrations. And, you know, on a, let's say, higher dimensional, on a time level. So that all of this really matters. So when I talk about something like harmonics, to me, this is not merely an intellectual exercise, although it can be fascinating intending to just delve into things and just learn about them. But it's more than that. I'm trying to say this directly connects with you, and I'll show, here's a picture. Go to my share screen over here. This directly connects with you, and like over here, this, I've shown you this drawing many times. This is your non-physical body or your time body, and it's made of light, and it's also made of time or possibilities and probabilities. And the proportions and the way that these waves are fitted together has everything to do with whether you are healthy and vital or whether you're dead and your consciousness you can no longer use your body as a container for consciousness. So harmonics and understanding this, it absolutely relates to your journey through time. It's not a mere intellectual exercise, and the information is meant to be empowering to give each one of us the capacity to understand, like, hey, you can really do something with your, you can really do something with this information, and it can be, you know, positive and uplifting. Okay, wait, let me do this. Let me annotate. Let me get my little thing for drawing. Hold on a second. Cheeky's still on my lap, balanced precariously. I'm putting my oscilloscope over here. Yeah, she's right down here. She's right down here, just looking at me. She's like, what's going on? Get my little thing so I can draw. So now let's talk about harmonics in the solar system, because, you know, over here, when I was showing this little drawing down below, here, wait, you get a picture, color, you can see. You know, when I was showing you this little drawing down below, red is always the biggest frequency, and then the other frequencies nest within there. And we are tiny microcosmic expressions of that, which is also happening in the solar system. So the emanations out from the sun, those would be like the biggest, I should use a different color, hold on. Those would be like the biggest waves, and they're so big that they might go all the way out into interstellar space. They might be very, very big. And then the rest of the planets are like the other musicians in the band, and they might be creating smaller orange waves or smaller yellow waves, all the way down to little tiny violet frequencies. So what is going on in our solar system? You know, we have 9 planets, right? But some of our planets are not healthy and vital in the way that they're supposed to be. So we've got the sun is big over here, and then we've got, I know that you probably cannot read these, they're too small on your screen, but you know, we've got Mercury and Venus and Earth. And so let's make a little X where there's Venus over there, and then we've got Mars over here. All right, Venus and Mars, and then we've also, between Mars and Jupiter, we've got the asteroid belt, where I just put that kind of curly line. Those 3 things are pretty much showing us with harmonics that something has come into our solar system and disrupted us. So again, I'm holding up in a little thumbnail a picture of my hand as if these are strings on the guitar. We're supposed to have 6 strings on the guitar, but what if you found a guitar and it was like you know, it was missing a couple of strings? And you're like, wait a minute, that guitar is supposed to have a certain number of strings. Where are the notes? What happened to it? And someone must have come along and taken those strings away. So in each one of these planets over here on the solar system, every time I make symbols with my hands, I'm not making Illuminati hand symbols. Please understand that. These guys have healthy magnetic fields, and magnetic fields are, you know, shaped like a torus. This guy's got it. This guy's got it. Jupiter's got it. Everybody's got healthy toroidal energy fields. Where's my yellow sculptures over there? Chiki's on my lap. You know what I'm talking about. Healthy toroidal energy fields. Earth has one. The sun has one. The sun's toroidal energy field is so giant that it goes all the way out past Pluto and then comes back. It's big. It's a heliosphere. It's so big that it encompasses all of the other planets. So the planets that don't have healthy magnetospheres, Mars does not have a healthy magnetosphere, does not have a healthy magnetic protective envelope. Neither does Venus, and neither does this wavy line that represents the asteroid belt. The asteroid belt used to be a planet, and that's the planet that I have spoken about having been destroyed by essentially a frequency weapon in very, you know, ancient history. Hold on a sec. Are you comfy? You good? Okay, Cheeky's good. Yeah, so if we're looking at the guitar of the solar system, there's a couple of strings missing. Something happened. Someone came along. They didn't just turn the knobs on the guitar that makes the guitar go out of tune. They actually took away some of the strings so that we couldn't play the song that we're actually supposed to be playing. So one of the strings that they took away this planet that was supposed to be here that got literally, I say, vibrated out of existence. Then we're talking about frequency weapons. So I'm talking about, I'll go back to my face, galloping Gertie. I've used this example many times. It's a bridge that was built in the early 1900s in the Pacific Northwest. And engineers of that time were just beginning to become expert enough in the use of technology and engineering to create large span suspension bridges, but they did not yet understand harmonics. So they built a bridge that went across a narrow gorge, and they didn't understand that the wind blowing laterally through the narrow gorge would create a harmonic effect, amplifying the waves in the bridge. And before the bridge vibrated itself out of existence, there's images of it. And the roadway of the bridge, it's like going up and down like this. That's why they call it galloping Gertie. And basically, as I've explained at length in this video, in this presentation today, when you amplify something, wave plus wave equals amplified wave. So that's what happened. And the two sides of the gorge were these two areas that the sound wave, the harmonic waves were bouncing off of. That's what I'm trying to tell you about, that there's an amplification effect. It's not just thing plus thing equals higher thing or amplified thing. It's also, it's how coherent light waves are created. We have two mirrors, and we have light waves bouncing back and forth between those two mirrors. The same thing can happen with sound waves. We have the two sides of the gorge, and we have sound waves bouncing back and forth between those two sides of the gorge. And it did so in a disharmonic way to the point that it made the pavement jump up and down, and then kapow, the whole thing went kablooey. This is what happened to that planet. That's now the asteroid belt. And so we can understand this in many ways. Frequency can be used as a tool for healing. Frequency can be used to create profound destruction. And this is what everyone on this planet is just starting to learn about as they're learning about directed energy weapons, frequency weapons, how these theoretically can be used to blast apart cancer cells or something you don't want in your body, but they can also be used to create cancer cells in your body or create prevent the effective functioning of and healthy functioning of your body. Wait, drinking water. So, okay, well, I don't know if there are any questions, if there are any more questions that I need to get to. I think I got to all the things that I wanted to talk about today. Yeah, I think I did. Frequency weapons. Yes. I'm just collecting my thoughts. Hold on a minute. Okay, really good question. Thank you. Okay, so Pedro asks, tinnitus is just physical or could be putis involved? This is a really good question because tinnitus is usually what happens when inside of your ears, you've got the cochlea that are spiraled up like a little snail, and inside of that little spiraled up tube, there are little tiny hairs, and the hairs are the vibrating receivers that allow us to feel and perceive and hear sound. And when you are exposed to very, very loud noises, those little hairs break off, just like if you're with your regular hair, like the ends of your hair break off because it's been damaged or you do too much blow drying or whatever. And when you have little tiny hairs floating around inside of there, it makes a noise, even when you're not being stimulated by a noise from the atmosphere. And that's what tinnitus is. So we could think of it as auditory static, like a high-pitched, like kind of constant whine or hum that's going on inside of your ears from, as the direct result, being having hearing damage, being exposed to things that are too loud. So blah, 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 a lot of things. In our urban environment and our ordinary everyday existence as industrialized humans, we are exposed to loud noises all the time, and all of this decreases hearing sensitivity. So all of that, just as a regular person, causes some amount of hearing loss. And then having tinnitus means that the little hairs have been damaged so much, there's so much debris floating around inside of your little cochlea that then you hear a constant, static noise or ringing that is going on as a result of actual damage to the apparatus of your ears. Now we have to talk and delineate that type of ringing in your ears from what is happening from, microwave emissions, essentially. When I say microwave, they are very tiny wave, tiny frequency, tiny wavelength, high frequency waves that are being emitted from cell phone towers, the Wi-Fi in your house, HARP, which are some of these weather modification systems. There are all of these artificial, technologically induced waveforms that are in our atmosphere that a lot of people have become sensitized to, and they are often able to hear it. It is not the result of debris in their inner ears making these erroneous noises that don't actually exist. They're actually very sensitive ears, and they are perceiving something that actually exists in the physical realm. And this is a huge problem because it can be very harmful to a lot of people. Like, it can cause loss of focus, loss of concentration, make it harder for people to sleep. And all of this is the end result of being submerged in a sea of vibrations that are ugly vibrations. Horrible music that is making people having ringing in their ears. So yeah, and this is also part of why we understand at this point the profound connectivity of everybody and everybody's life. It's not just like, oh, I'm just me swimming around in my own private kiddie pool and I'm doing my own thing and no one else is affecting me and I'm not affecting anyone else. It's like, no, you're affecting other people and being affected by other people. So then you have an ethical right to intervene. If someone's building some kind of a tower over there that's making you have sensitivity and tinnitus and loss of sleep and whatever, then you definitely have a vested interest. We all have a vested interest in not allowing stupid people, malevolent people, to build towers, to emit microwaves that harm and disrupt our basic biological cellular structure. This is what's been going on. This is the invasion of our solar system. So, okay, everybody, the reason why the planet got vibrated out of existence and the reason why Mars has such a malfunctioning magnetosphere and the reason why Venus has such a malfunctioning magnetosphere is because of invaders to our solar system. We are not the first or the only solar system to have been invaded. However, the work that we are doing here in this time and place with our own DNA is healing and rectifying the time field. So I won't tell you, oh, horrible things have happened in this solar system family without giving you the solution. When you dance like a flying rainbow lasagna with your DNA, you begin to make the most beautiful music. And the more we do it, you can do it so that it's so strong and so coherent that it also joins together with other musicians. And this becomes a very powerful song of healing, and not healing like in a wanky way. Like, we don't want anybody to think that this is like some flimsy, wimpy thing. This is incredibly badass. Because so many people in this world actually think that technology is stronger than nature. They think, oh, 5G and all these things is way stronger than the natural world. No, actually, technology is extremely flimsy and extremely vulnerable. And actually, our genetic song is much stronger, almost to the point of indestructibility, than the way any of these apparatuses are built. So technically, this is lesson 18, and it's all about galactic history. But the basic backstory is invaders came to this planet. Invaders came to the solar system. They came to this planet like as the fourth planet that they invaded, the fourth guitar string that they're trying to cut. But things did not go as planned. Just like they tried to sacrifice this body that I'm in, things did not go as planned, and instead I flying rainbow lasagnaed. Well, Earth is a bit of a troublemaker too, and Earth is not just dying like a good victim. Earth is actually fighting back very effectively, and our individual journeys are all a part of that. Oh, what does this say over here? Pedro says, okay, wait. Okay, Eric was responding to, wait. Okay, question. Eric says, I've also been told it is possible that these frequencies can be subliminal programming. Yes. Like synthetic telepathy. Yes, I'm agreeing with you. The high pitch is what you consciously hear, but at a lower tone is a spoken message inserted. Do you have experience with this? So I definitely have experienced synthetic telepathy quite a lot, or it's also called sometimes V2K or voice to skull. I can tell when it's synthetic telepathy, usually because, like, if it's real telepathy, well, if it's a real ascended master, you'd be like, hey, give me a feeling of love in my heart. She'd be like, no problem. It's like, here's my card. I'm a real ascended master. Here's the love in your heart. Now let's have a conversation. They don't do that, and they don't have an energetic signature. So they don't say, knock, knock, knock. I'd like to have a conversation. Here's my energetic signature. Here's some love, so you know that I'm for real. They don't do that. They just start in on a conversation, and that's because they're being artificially augmented in their telepathy. So sometimes they'll be like, oh, wait. Before we get into a long-winded conversation, who are you? Because I want to make sure that we hold everybody accountable to everything that they say. You can't just be like, oh, I'm just going to say a bunch of crap and then, go somewhere else. It's like, you dropped a bunch of turds, you're not just going to leave them sitting there. Like, you can't do that. So yeah, you have to take responsibility for everything that you say. And also, when you're stimulating someone else's mind, you're stimulating someone else's mind. You're causing biochemical changes and reactions in their actual brain. It's like reaching into their brain. It's not okay for some random, like, would you let a random stranger be like, yes, cut open my head and stick your ungloved hand inside of my brain? Like, no, you wouldn't. And this is exactly what these synthetic telepaths are doing. They're like, oh, I'm going to force my way into your mind and say whatever I want, and even cut wires or do things or do stuff to you that you might not want me to do, but I'm going to do it anyway. So yeah, I find that the synthetic telepathy is worse when I'm around smart meters, or when I have my cell phone unshielded, because now I have a little Faraday pouch for my cell phone that I often keep it in. So I found there's definitely a connection between exposure to technology and to technological frequency and to having synthetic telepathy. And I also find synthetic telepathy attacks are worse after I've been exposed to chemicals. And I found that out after I helped my friend spray her garden with what she said was an organic pesticide, but it was still way too much for me to be exposed to. And then driving home from there, I had horrible synthetic telepathy attacks, and I understood it was because chemicals make ugly music like this. Oop, I'm making my computer fall. Don't make my computer fall. Hold on a second, guys. Sorry. Yes, that ugly music created such a horrible vibration, it almost made my computer slide off the desk. Yeah, I have it like on this little slanted thing. Yes, so yes, voice to skull. So I do not necessarily hear a high-pitched tone. I hear very easily distinguishable articulated sentences. So I'll put them through little tests. I'll be like, oh, wait, you're a super advanced species or a benevolent extraterrestrial. That's awesome. Before we get into this conversation, just tell me, like, what's 597 times 833? And then I'll be happy to be in a conversation with you. And there's never a correct answer. They never get it right. And I'm like, wait a minute, I thought you were a super advanced, highly technologically advanced benevolent species. My iPad can tell me the answer to what that basic addition is. How come you can't tell me the answer? Or you can test them out in this way. If you're driving down the road or whatever, like, I'll be happy to be in an extensive conversation with you. All you have to do is tell me what color is the next car that's going to drive by, or some other valid form of prediction. And if it's like, but I thought you were an ascended master. I thought you were a super smart, wonderfully technologically advanced species. Like, you can't tell me what's going to happen like one minute in the future or like 5 seconds in the future. You can't authenticate that. So yeah, they can't authenticate it. And the synthetic telepathy, they always are running on a script. And what they're basically doing is pushing buttons. Like, imagine DJs have samples and they can push different things, but they can only deal with what's programmed in. Or like Stephen Hawking, he could only say programmed phrases like, get me the water, get me the this. That's what their synthetic telepathy is like. So let's say that they're like, oh, I want to come along and start a conversation with you. Just talk about something that's crazy and made up. Like, oh, let's talk about, whatever, purple pancakes. They don't have a response programmed in for purple pancakes. They can't say that phrase. So they're like, they might want to talk about whatever their pre-programmed phrases are, but it's like, oh, but wait, I want to talk about purple pancakes. So, usually I say, like, don't spend extensive amounts of time talking with demons or, whatever, interacting with them on that level. But sometimes it can be, very enlightening to do this, because you get to really see like that what you're interacting with on a mental level, like none of them are authentic. None of them are authentic. And when I have interacted with really authentic, higher dimensional, truly benevolent, intelligent species, thank you, I'll take those kisses. Mostly the conversations were not verbalized, in the same way that when I'm doing my paintings, I don't have to tell myself, like, pick up my pencil, find the red paint. Like, I don't have to do that. It's all on a faster way of speaking that is not verbal. That's what the real conversations are like. They are not verbalized, and they're happening on a much faster rate. And the slower verbalized conversations, I'm finding they're like, it's all garbage. It's all garbage. Don't waste your time. Or I'm encouraging everyone, like, to stay focused and not to spend time and energy talking with these very crappy musicians. Pedro says, I've been using the Merkaba when the ringing gets too loud, and it has worked. No messages in my tinnitus. Very interesting, yeah. And so if you're using the Merkaba and you find that it reduces the ringing or hissing or whatever static on the line, then that is probably something that is not created just by debris in your ears, but that those sounds are probably being created by some form of, basically like a psychic attack, we're talking about psychic attacks and directed energy weaponry. This is all horrible music. Like if I mashed my keyboard, that's what we're hearing when we experience that. So yeah, what caused the death of the previous occupant of this body and the neurological artifacts, you know, the scars that I still experience from that were all frequency weapons. Yes, and that happened to me in 2001. And when I was here in 2001, I started to tell people about it. No one knew what directed energy weapons were or that these could be used to attack people. But yes, they can be used to make your heart beat irregularly, or for people to have seizures in their brain, or to have aneurysms, or to have literally, like, it's like cooking your body from the inside out. It's microwave. They microwave your brain, they microwave your organs. And yes, the Merkaba is one of the effective tools that you can use to make a shield to block out the crap so they can't get into you. And I also, shungite. I'm all about shungite, and I've been drinking out of my shungite water, and I take very minimal small doses of shungite in tincture. I don't take C60, because again, it's that whole question of who manufactured it and where did it come from and what might also have been placed into it. So yellow caution flags on that, but shungite powder itself is a naturally occurring mineral and should not have been too adulterated. So here's another question from Eric. He says, so do you think these are actual people behind PCs or some sort of AI, something else? Really good question. Sometimes the synthetic telepathy that I hear, I overhear them cross chatter, but like they should have muted their microphone, but instead I hear them. And sometimes they say something like, going for a cup of coffee. Like, higher dimensional beings do not sit around like in a call center waiting for their break so they can go for a cup of coffee. Those have also been some very crucial clues to me that tell me these are just like, it's almost like when you call customer service in India and it's a big giant call center and everybody's there with their headphones and their microphone, like, oh, I'm ready to help you with your software problem. I see that there's almost like a demonic call center. And I will also make this very, very clear. The intelligence agencies are part of this, like the CIA, the FBI. These intelligence agencies are filled with demonic minions. So there are actual physically embodied intelligence agents who are paid with your fucking tax dollars. Pardon my French. Sorry if there are kids watching. Yes, they are paid with your tax dollars, and they receive their wonderful government pensions and insurance plans for torturing you. They sit in large, clearly undisclosed locations, and that's their job. They put on like the magical headband or whatever their technological augmentation is. Like, you know, you put on your call center, put on your headset so you can hear your customer, and then when you speak into the microphone. So, and sometimes I'll hear them even passing the baton, like a shift change. I've heard a shift change, like, hey, Frank, it's not like this, but it's akin to this. Like, hey, how you doing? Oh, yeah, I've been busy torturing this person over here. I got to go home now. But pick up, here's the script. They run on a script. That's what it is. They're supposed to say this, then say this, then say this. That's what I was saying. It's like a DJ that has pre-programmed sounds that are on the buttons. You can press this, and it makes this sound. This, and it makes this phrase. This, and it makes this phrase. They can't actually have a sustained conversation with you, especially if you innovate and make a strange phrase like purple pancakes, because they don't have that programmed in as part of their script that they can use to communicate with you. So we're in this world where not only do we have random static frequency that is, we're being subjected to, that can make it difficult for us to tune into real nature and real divinity. But then we also have directed energy weapons, synthetic telepathy, that is intentionally, it's not just like static on the line, it's intentionally trying to screw you over because you think, oh, it's a higher dimensional being, it's a saint, an ascended master, it's a divine being, or it's someone who's here to guide you. None of that is true. They're here to degrade you. They are here to harm you in any way possible. They're totally screwing with you. They're laughing at you, and they think that they are untouchable. So I've spoken about this in plenty of other episodes. I'll do it again here. Self-protection from negative thought entities. So you can set up a feedback loop. Feedback in having like a performance in an instrument. You've got your microphone, the instrument, like a electric guitar, and the amp. You've got three things. And feedback means you have an ever-increasing loop or amplification of energy between those three things. And in your own unsullied mind, you have natural telepathy. The demonic minions that are working for intelligence agencies are embodied. So they have natural telepathy. Then they also have synthetic implants. There's synthetic telepathy. And so there's three things. your natural telepathy, their natural telepathy, and their synthetic telepathy. And you can set up a feedback loop between these three things that blows out their speakers. It blows out their sensitive apparatuses because you amplify the natural telepathy, but from a slightly slightly askew viewpoint, and it destabilizes it. Just like if you put clothes in the washing machine, but it's all bunched up on one side, and it starts to spin, and it goes ka-chugga, chugga, 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 and it goes ka-chunga, chung so much that the washing machine spins out of control and dies. That is what can happen to these synthetic telepaths if you do it right. I encourage everyone to practice doing this. And also, you are totally ethically, you don't need my permission, but I will reaffirm that you have ethical permission to do this because they're literally mind raping you and trying to kill and destroy you. So yes, you absolutely have the wherewithal, the ethical foundation to be able to fight back. Even if you are being attacked mortally, you can kill them, send back what they are sending to you, amplified instantaneously in a way that destroys their apparatus and can even kill them. They have no compunction against killing you and me, literally no compunction. And literally what we have are intelligence agencies attacking the citizens of the own very country that they are supposedly protecting. All of that is blah, ha, ha, blah, ha, ha. They're the heroes protecting your country. Like that, don't make me laugh. Don't make me laugh so hard, okay? No, with utter sarcasm, they are the invaders. They've invaded, the invasion happened over 10,000 years ago. But the beings that are embodied, that are working for these intelligence agencies, they have totally acquiesced to their humanity. They are not, by definition, human anymore. They're containers for demonic energy. They're connected to an AI, because I know you asked about, is it an AI? So there's a big, giant, ancient AI that runs this whole thing, but they're just like the lowest minions of it. And they are looked down upon because they still have bodies. Like, you loser, you still have a body? How come you're not living like a pootie on the interstices? You're not as good as me. You still have to touch ugly, gross humans with your mind. That's what I've also described as like scrubbing the toilet. Higher dimensional demons do not want to touch human minds directly. That's like, touch a human mind? No. Hire some guy in the CIA. He will press your buttons. He will touch your human mind. And so the beings, when they contact me with synthetic telepathy, I'm like, oh, intelligence agency demon minion. Your overlords are not going to be very happy with your productivity. You're not reaching your quotas of misery with me. Oh, they're going to sodomize you eternally when you actually get to hell. Like, basically, you make fun of them a little bit, because it's like if someone's not doing a good job in the mafia, like you don't get promoted. You get demoted in the most violent way possible. Let me read what Pedro says. Pedro says, you said that you could punch a demon and that he can't take you to this higher judge. I forgot his name. What was it? I'm not exactly sure what I said in the past, but I have said, like, it became clear to me at a certain point that the rules of the cosmos have been subverted, and there's supposed to be a higher dimensional court system, the high court, that is supposed to control interpretation of law and the proper dissemination of justice. It's been out to lunch for a long time, like the lunch lady, out to lunch, having a smoke break, not actually here doing what she's supposed to be doing. So at a certain point, it's like, oh, if we're in this realm of vigilante justice, then you get to be a vigilante. Like if a demon comes along and wants to, destroy your mind, and, with the frequency weapon, you don't have to play nice. You don't have to play nice on any level. You can absolutely, it's like if you are walking down a dark alley and someone tries to attack you with a crowbar. Like, you can block out the crowbar, you can take the weapon from them, and you can send it through their freaking skull and make them die because they literally tried to attack you. So that is what I talk about when I talk about doing these feedback loops or other forms of psychic self-defense. They've only been attacking humanity so effectively because humans don't know being attacked, and also there are ways to protect yourself. And I want everyone to be a super badass martial artist of the mind so that you're not easily attacked. And the first lesson of martial arts is you're allowed to punch someone. You're allowed to fight back. You don't ever let them tell you that it's somehow not loving or not Christ-like or not allowed in some way. They're bullies on the playground. Smash them in the nose. Give them a bloody nose, because bullies do not stop. If you say, oh, bully, please stop, you're being very naughty, they don't stop. They stop when you smash them in the nose. And they really stop when you take a crowbar and you smash their skull in. So there are all these different things that you can do. And as you grow stronger and stronger lasagna muscles, you become more adept at doing them. And at a certain point, like you're lasagna-ing so quickly that you have totally superseded them in all of their attacks. However, on the journey to there, punch the bullies in their stupid fat noses and, you know, don't allow them to harm you in any way. So yeah, I hope that at a certain point, this will become common knowledge and there will be actual justice for all the people who have been targeted and attacked. So many people are targeted and attacked. To being a targeted individual, like that, I don't even know the numbers, but it is disturbingly common that this goes on, and it is not acceptable in any way. So many people are being harmed on a daily basis by intelligence agencies of various different countries who all use exotic technology in order to reach into your mind with synthetic telepathy and screw with you. Gala says, oh wait, Eric says first, that's correct. Never start a fight, but always be willing to end one. That's exactly right. And you can end it not by being like, in so many movies, it's like, oh, the hero must show mercy. Like you're about to deliver the death blow. And the guy says, oh, the villain says, oh, please, forgive me. It ain't my fault. I blame somebody else. Blah, blah, blah. Don't do what the stupid Hollywood movies tell you, which would be like, okay, I won't punch you in the face. I'll hug you and we'll become best friends. I'll be my little demon best friend. And then we'll have like a little music video together of being a demon best friend. No, that is not what you do. You punch them in the face until their face is smeared into nothing but like a pink paste. Like punch them until they are pulverized. They are literally the embodiment of pure evil and malevolence. They would do that to you. They are looking to totally exterminate you. You do not have to be nice to them. And Gala says, as soon as you start taking their energy, they start running. Exactly. They are looking for easy pickings. They want an easy, energetic investment where they can just give out 10 units of energy and receive back 10 million units of energy. And if you take their 10 units of energy and then you stick it in your pocket and they don't get anything back, they're like, wait, I thought I was going to feed off of your energy. I thought I was going to get rich. No, actually, you're not going to get rich. And I'm taking your energy and I'm taking Eddie. This is another thing that I do when they try to insert something into me that doesn't belong there, their mind or some form of energy or whatever. I'm like, oh, look at this. Something that is coming inside of me like a tentacle that's not supposed to be there. Well, I'm just going to chop that off, because if you put that into my energy field, it becomes mine. So I'm just going to chop that off. I'm going to exert my boundary. And I'm going to put that over here either in my energetic slush fund, or I have an extensive trophy case. An extensive trophy case of all of the genitalia of the supernatural beings that tried to mind rape me. We just cut off all their tentacles with a machete and we display it over here so that everyone can see exactly what will happen if that is what you try to do to me. So there's definitely some deterrence at doing that. And Pedro says, kind of like the novel Ender's Game. I think that I read Ender's Game a long time ago, but I don't exactly remember what happened. But those were very interesting books. So most at the end of this recording, and it was going to be a long upload, I want to make sure I got to everybody's questions and comments about frequency and harmonics. And you know, I wish that we lived in that world, and we are creating again that world of beautiful, perfect music, where we're in an environment that is perfectly calibrated. Our bodies are perfectly calibrated. We are musicians, and every day we wake up and we sing and emit this music of health and life and vitality. And every day you're like, I'm so excited to meet new people and jam with them and make new music and make new melodies. That's what our existence is supposed to be like. We are not supposed to be constantly embattled. And I feel, I mean, I have a great deal of solidarity. I'm here with everyone else. This is a very embattled position, where all of these things are trying to kill you all the time. All these things are trying to degrade you, distract you, and all of this. It's very challenging. Like, you just try and play your stupid damn song, and all of these things are trying to stop you from doing it. It's very, very challenging. So the idea is, you know, setting up your own energetic firewalls, and also connecting with other good musicians. And this is what happens when we collaborate with other people that actually have their SHIT together, and they are not playing ego games. They're not trying to dominate or control you. And that's another way of, like, you're getting energy and vibration from good musicians that actually want to love and nourish and uplift you. And so, yeah, it can be difficult, and it can be like few and far between, but we definitely exist out here. Pedro says, if you provoked him, he would end the fight so there would be no more fights. Oh, interesting. I think that if you provoked a demon, they would look to see whether you are like a threat to them. They would just decide whether they wanted to fight you based on whether it's like a threat, kind of like dog fighting. Like, you know, if you're a little tiny dog and you go to a big giant pit bull, and the pit bull will be like, oh, sure, like, I'll be happy to fight with you. I have a big giant mouth. Like, it'll be fun to chew you up. So yeah, so I think that, but if you're a bigger dog than they are, or if you have secret hidden muscles or something that they don't know about, then I think they'd be like, oh, we'll just quietly back away. We don't want this. So there's a video for the song called Radioactive by this Imagine Dragons band. And I like the video because it's kind of like a mixed martial arts fight for the death cage match of all of these little Muppet-like beings, like these little stuffed animals, and they all keep getting smashed up by this mean monster, and then this one little stuffed animal goes into the ring, and the mean monster is like, ah, ha, ha, laughing at him like, I'm gonna chew you up with my feet, you know, with my horrible teeth, and the little stuffed animal is like, okay, he looks like a Care Bear, and all of a sudden the Care Bear emits like this huge energy field from his chest and destroys the monster and sets all the other little Muppets free. And that's what it's kind of like. Like, some demons will look at you and be like, oh, you're just some stupid little Muppet, but you're just a little Care Bear, you're dumb. But they don't know that you actually have a profound ability that is inside of you that is now awakened, that you can use in order to completely destroy them and set all of the other poor little Muppet prisoners free. Eric says, speaking of Imagine Dragons, he just trolled the internet, mocking anyone who believes in Illuminati and conspiracies. So yeah, it's not a total endorsement of them or their values or their, you know, who they are as people, just an example in their video. I like that video. Yeah, so I'd have to look further into what he's actually saying with that. So I tell you what, guys, let me end the recording for right now because I'm at the end of what it'll take me a long time to upload this, but I'll keep on going with questions in the chat room. So thank you very much to everyone who watched this extensive video. And again, I will encourage people to enroll. So I have a whole recorded lesson that's all about harmonics that goes into the details of this even more extensively. It doesn't have the music because I didn't have that instrument at that point. So I'll encourage everyone to be in the enrolled lessons and check out those recorded lessons. And I will include the SoundCloud of this in the description so that you can check it out. Thank you to everyone who's in the class and who's enrolled and who are monthly patrons. And also it's incredibly helpful for anyone who has, who likes this work. Share it with friends, talk about it with other people. The algorithm does not allow my work to get out there very effectively. So I find that it's definitely only through people directly sharing my work that other people find out about it. So if you find this work of value, please do share it with other people who you think could also benefit from it. Thank you very much.